Hi, welcome to the Diablo Podcast. We are online at diablopodcast.com, and this is a service of diablo.incgamers.com, as we like to call it, the unofficial Diablo III fan site. I am your host, Flux, and I am joined again this week by my lovely co-host, Elly.
Hello.
Elly. She liked that last week. I should have done it again.
You said you weren't going to do that again.
Yeah, I didn't. Only after the fact. You know how men lie.
Yeah.
So, anyway, this is our 20th episode, and as we did last week, this is a little bit of a change of pace. We're going to just run down some recent news items and answer a couple of reader mailbag feedback question things from our Facebook page. And we are still doing the more in-depth, detailed, feature deep, et cetera, podcasts. We just didn't do one last weekend, and we will be mixing those in with these more general news ones, most of which will feature Elly, as far as I know.
Yes, due to huge public demand, I'm becoming more involved in the podcasts.
Diablo III is getting closer to a beta test and then a release.
I'm getting excited!
So, we've been running the podcast for only about 3 months, but that is actually about 2.5 years later starting date than we planned on having. We were talking about way back in, I think, late 08 and early 09. We should do a podcast. It'd be kind of fun. That would help us fill the next few months before Diablo 3 is released. And that was, of course, 3 years ago. So you were at the Paris WWI event in 2008, June, when Diablo 3 was announced, debuted, revealed. Mm-hmm. Well, I guess actually it was debuted the night before on our website, but we probably shouldn't mention that again.
Shh.
But anyway, you were there, and you saw the show, and you were excited and all that.
No.
Did you have any thought at the time how long it would be? Or
I did think over 2 years, at least. I think everybody did, didn't they? Is anybody surprised?
I'm sure some people are. You'd think that by now people would expect it. Of course, it's going to be 3.5 years at a minimum. So even if you thought 2 years, it's been, We have a thread in our Diablo 3 community forum that's guess the release date. Kind of a poll thing where anybody who wants to can put their release date in. And I think that thread went up like the day the game was announced, just for fun. Obviously, we were, throwing darts, blindfolded while spinning in circles at that point, which is actually pretty fun at parties if you have some vodka first. You mentioned within 2 years. People were predicting 09 dates and early 2010 dates. Have you made a prediction on that thread, Elly? I did make a post early on, and I think I said something like mid-2010, and then by late 2009, it was obvious that was wildly inaccurate. So then I jumped my pick to, I think, mid-2012, which hopefully was too pessimistic. Now that you've checked the thread, you actually haven't made a prediction.
No, I was hedging my bets.
Luckily, some other news came up. We don't rely just upon Blizzard for our news coverage, or else we would have a very slow website. We often get fans asking about that. Why don't they release more? Why don't they do more stuff? And especially this year, because as we've been approaching the beta, they've made some noises about the beta, which we expect to start in August at this point. At least I do. Elly might not. She's tricky. And there's been a number of big news releases this year. We got this whole thing with the Runestone videos, and we got the followers. And late last year, the Artisans feature was released. And each time, fans seem to think, this is a big flagpole event. Okay, great, we're going to have lots of stuff now, and it's going to start leading up towards the game. And basically, we end up having lots of flagpoles and no tent. So there's this huge 2 or 3 days with 5 new interviews and all kinds of stuff, and then there's nothing for 3 weeks. And it's kind of weird. Fans all get excited and want more, and then there is no more. And do you think they have a strategy here, Elly? I mean, shouldn't they be gradually building up to something instead of just these EKG peaks and spikes and then nothing in between?
Well, the drought. If you take Duke Nukem, and about 2 months before release, Gearbox were releasing snippets of gameplay that they didn't tell you much about the game, but they looked really action-packed and exciting. And then in May, they announced via some comedy video that it was delayed yet again, and that got the press talking about it again. And then also in May, they started to really butter up the press, and they took them all out to Vegas and showed them a good time, and the press were all over it saying, oh, it's so awesome, and it's a fantastic game, it's just as good as the original. And 4 weeks later, of course, they were panning it on Metacritic. I mean, IncGamers gave it 4.8. So I think Blizzard are probably very canny by playing things close to their chest. They're not raising expectations too much, not outside of BlizzCon anyway. And you have to remember that an important part of the audience are the new fans, and these will come via these general sites through their previews and reviews, and eventually Metacritic. And it's those guys who'll be doing the previews and the reviews. And they only really have a small taster of the game at the moment. And they'll probably all be on the beta, and that's probably going to be really punchy. It's going to be one act or maybe part of, but it's enough that's going to leave them wanting more. So when they come to do their review, they'll be really excited at the prospect of continuing on the game from where they left off in the beta, and their expectations won't be ridiculously high, as was the case with Duke Nukem. So I think Blizzard, as I say, are playing things pretty canny by doing this tactic.
So it sounds like you're saying what I've heard some people argue also. We hardcore reading Diablo III fan site everyday people are not at all their target audience for the promotion.
Oh no, we're sold.
They do a lot of stuff through Twitter and Facebook, and they do these big bursts of info where they almost never seem to do just one interview. They always do like 5 or 6 at once. And then they all, I guess that way they figure they get saturation coverage. That's what they want to do to penetrate everywhere. They get on Wired, they get on Slashdot, they get on all these not necessarily gaming sites. And they don't have any intention of keeping us occupied every day like we would like to be. They just do big stuff for the general fans, and they figure the people who are really hardcore are pretty much sold already.
Yeah, well, we are, aren't we?
I haven't pre-ordered yet.
Well, you're not likely not to buy it, are you? Really?
Well, you never know. I might get miffed.
Yeah,
they must cater to my whims. And if not, they'll never see my $60, and that'll make a real big difference in their bottom line.
Yeah, I'm sure. But no, I think we're sold, and I think they're doing the right thing in the big picture. Not for us, because we're diehard fans, and we expect to get something juicy each week, like screenshot of the week or something. So, but I can understand it from a general marketing plan to play things closer to their chest.
And we're still months from release. I mean, you said Duke Nukem, it was really just 2 months out before they started to heavily promote things.
And it was.
And I mean, at the soonest, Diablo 3 will be out, November, December, absolute soonest, and it's only July. So, I think they're probably going to plan on the beta being a lot of promotion and getting a lot of buzz based on that. They don't plan to have an NDA on their betas anymore. They haven't the last few at least. So in theory, every writer for news organizations and New York Times reporters and Wired and everybody else will actually be in the beta test. And hopefully they'll be getting hopefully in terms of Blizzard, they'll be getting some coverage from that. And fan sites as well, of course. I think
they're assured of that because sites know it's a good hit to write something about Diablo. I mean, we see news sites regurgitating old news all the time.
Yeah.
Don't we? Because they know
regurgitating is actually a kind term for what they do with a lot of it usually.
Yes. I mean,
it's just complete, garbage sometimes. Just making stuff up. They'll be like, we've heard rumors about X. And it's like, no, you are the rumor about X. No one has said this until you just wrote it to get some hits.
Yeah, and invariably we report on it, and you can see...
And they get hits.
Yeah, and they get hits.
We feed the trolls, basically.
Yeah, but we can't not report on it because that's not the remit of the site. So I think this drought will carry on a little bit longer until the end of the month, obviously, until they have that press tour.
So basically the hardcore fans, which includes you and I, are entitled and want more than we're going to get, but Blizzard's not going to just come out and say that, so we can kind of infer it from their actions, though.
Yes.
There's a good news for all of our listeners.
Yeah.
Blizzard doesn't care about you. Of course they do.
Moving on, next.
And speaking of news, something just showed up today, literally like an hour ago. The Polish portal of Blizzard's Battle.net coverage confirmed that Diablo III playable demo will be at the Gamescom event, which is August 18th through 21st in Cologne, Germany. IncGamers is covering the show. Obviously, IncGamers covers lots of games. It's not just a Blizzard or a Diablo 3 fan site. You cover everything there.
Yes, they were going to Gamescom anyway. They're not going all the way there just for Diablo 3. Although I used to go to E3 just for Diablo 2. It's quite sad.
Which was a lot further away than Germany.
Yeah, it was. It was very sad, actually. Anyway, so I think it makes perfect sense to have it at this huge, it's a public show, and it's probably one of the last times they're going to be able to get it out in front of European gamers before release.
There were a lot of comments in the news post about it being at Gamescom, people saying this means there's no beta until after that, or this means it won't be the beta build, or what they're going to be showing at Gamescom. Last year they took the 2009 demo again, so they might just take the 2010 demo to Gamescom.
A couple of guys on the forum, the Eliminator and Elganame, reckon it will just be the BlizzCon 2010 build. But if they've already demoed a 2011 build at this press weekend thing, why would they roll out an old build?
Yeah, that was my thought, because they've said that this press event, which is coming up at the end of July, is going to show off the beta, have a playable demo for the fans of a new thing, and also show off the Battle.net stuff for Diablo III. If they're debuting the beta in late July, or at least a demo from the beta build, it might be like level 6 characters, wherever you would be at level 6 in the beta kind of thing, but not just starting at 0.
No, I couldn't see why they would have it in Europe, have a superseded version of the game. Because surely there'll be things that have changed, and they'll be constantly saying, "Oh, we don't have those anymore." "Oh, we've changed that."
Yeah, Gamescom is, for people who don't know, it's a huge event, and it's not like E3, which used to be just media only. Gamescom is more akin to like the Penny Arcade Expo, where any fans can go.
Yeah.
30,000, 40,000 people a day in this gigantic convention center. In other recent news, we just got, last week, this thing called the Book of Cain was briefly posted on Amazon.com, and it was also visible on the Amazon UK and Germany and Canada sites. And it looks like a really cool 180 pages or so. It's apparently an illustrated work, illustrations and text, and it's written from the perspective of Deckard Cain, the actual Diablo game character, who likes you to stay a while and listen. Like a larger exploration of the plot and the lore based on the description that was posted. And we say was posted because 2 days later the listing vanished from Amazon.com, and people who inquired into that were told that it had been removed by the publisher without any explanation. So apparently it was not meant to go public yet, and somehow did.
Still available on the UK site. I checked that earlier, it's still there. But I think it was just another case of miscommunication and someone's jumped the gun. And I was thinking, if the book, because you were talking earlier, and if the Book of Cain, if it's to be in the collector's edition, although that's not been confirmed, and well, neither is the book really, well, it hasn't. Has
well,
it?
The book, they had pictures and page counts and everything. I think the book is confirmed, just not when.
From them, though. From Blizzard, I mean, sorry.
Yeah, we wondered why they hadn't posted a link to it or news about it, and then of course it was, they removed the listing with all the information the next day, so I guess that was why.
Okay, so if it's going to be part of the collector's edition, I don't think it would be logical to announce it and take pre-orders before the collector's edition. So if that had the release date of 11/11/11, so too would the collector's edition, would it not? And going further, most AAAs are released in October or November, and if they miss that, usually January, February or March. So if I was to take a punt at the schedule, I'd say the beta August, as most people have decided is probably likely, with a release date announced at BlizzCon at the end of October, with a speculative release date of 11/11/11. But the only fly in the ointment there is that it's also release date of Skyrim, the Elder Scrolls, the 5th Elder Scrolls, and both games obviously have a similar target audience.
I will say I think that's wildly unlikely.
Oh dear.
I mean, I don't recall Blizzard ever running a beta that was under 4 months, and if the beta starts in early August, September, October, November, December, 4 months would be early December. I mean, I guess they could have a hugely accelerated beta if they think the game is really, really set and finished in advance, and they don't need to test that much stuff. I don't know if I would read too much into the Book of Cain's projected release date. Retailers often have projected release dates for Diablo III that are completely fictitious.
Yeah. It also hinges on the Book of Cain being in the collector's edition.
Blizzard generally includes an art book in their collector's editions in recent years. On the official Diablo III site, they've had this Cain's Journal, and it kind of retells the plot of Diablo 1 and Diablo 2 from Cain's POV. So he's talking, this hero has defeated Diablo and returned to Tristan, but he seems very troubled, and he's got a glowing rock in his forehead, and I fear something horrible is going to happen. It's written from the time and the place like a diary entry. And we have no idea if this Book of Cain is the same thing, but it sounded like from the description that it was sort of expanded upon that. And we know Deckard Cain is kind of one of the major characters of Diablo III, and Diablo III is set 20 years later, and Deckard has been trying to warn people about an imminent demon invasion, and no one really believes him, and most people don't really know what happened 20 years before with the events of Diablo II. So it seems like this book would kind of flesh out what Cain has been doing for the last 20 years and, bring us up to the time and the plot of Diablo III. And it seems like they would probably not want to release that before the game, because I would assume it would have plot spoilers of some kind. So that's it for the recent news, unfortunately. Unless, of course, Blizzard is watching us secretly through the cracks in the walls, like they sometimes do, and there's going to be 20 new forum posts tomorrow with all kinds of cool podcast discussion, which we'll have to wait for next week to cover, alas. But we do have a little mailbag feature. We've been looking for questions from our Facebook and our YouTube readers, followers. And we have one from Kyle Melberg, who asked us about skill caps and skill points. And he says, from what he's heard, the current situation is you get 1 skill point per level with your character. Maybe you get some from quests, etc., but we don't know about that. As he points out, the limits in Diablo 2 were 20 points per skill, and you got 1 per level, and the max level was 99, and I think you got 5 skill point bonuses per difficulty level. So characters could get over 100 skill points, and basically you could max out 5 skills and then have a couple of 1-skill wonders as well. It's a lot different in Diablo 3, where, from what we've been told, you get a maximum skill cap in normal difficulty of 5. That's all you can put into any skill in normal. And then at some point it increases to 15 and possibly higher. And, a lot of fans obviously projected that means it would go up to 10 on Nightmare and 15 on Hell. But that's just speculation, and, this has been changed 100 times during development anyway, so who knows what it's at. Even if we knew, we wouldn't know. You'll most likely have 2 or 3 main skills maxed up to 15, assuming 15 is the max. And then you'll have other skills that will have a few points as kind of support skills. The big question with that, we've had many, many debates about this in the forums, of course, is how that affects the game balance. If we don't know if you'll be getting any skill bonuses from quests, although I certainly hope so. Wouldn't you feel a little deprived, Elly, if there were not a skill bonus from a quest at some point?
It depends if the skill needs it.
We get experience and you get item from the NPCs during quests, but at some point I want a skill where when I complete it, you get that, let me try the sound here, wong. It's like a Chinese restaurant. You get that big boom, and you're like, sweet. I will feel personally neglected, and like Jay Wilson does not love me if there's not a skill bonus from some quest at least once in Diablo 3.
A skill point, you mean?
Yes. Or perhaps 2.
Really? It takes just that?
My friend Tyrael, he's this angel fellow. You might have seen him in the game in the past. Big white wings, black face, etc.
Yeah.
No face, actually. I once killed a demon in Act 4 in Hell in Diablo 2, and I got back to town, he was like, hey dude, sup? And I was like, sup? And he was like, here's some skill points for you, dude. And I was like, sweet. And it was like, wong! and then I had, you're ruining my reenactment. And then I had 2 skill points, and it was hella sweet.
And you were very pleased.
And in theory, Tyrael is going to be flapping his way through Diablo 3 at some point. Hopefully he becomes evil and we get to kill him, because he's always kind of pissed me off, frankly. But I want skill points from Tyrael. I want to squeeze them out of him like drumsticks. Do you agree or disagree, Elly?
I wish I cared. See, I'm not obsessive like you.
We're going to take Tyrael by his drumsticks and just squeeze him until eggs come out?
No, I just want items. That's all I'm worried about.
So you want items. We'll get items, but skills obviously are magnified by items. You can find 1 billion items. You only get X number of skills from your level ups. DiabloWiki.net/skills. There are no skill prerequisites other than character level in Diablo 3. You do not ever need to spend a skill point simply to enable another skill. There are also no skill synergies as were added in Diablo 2. There are no skills that directly boost the effect of other skills. That's what traits do. Traits are basically passive skills. And there are no passive skills in the skill trees. All the skill points you spend are on active skills that you actually use to attack and kill things. Passive skills are called traits, and those are a different system in Diablo 3. I see kind of a pro and a con to skill points. As they've pointed out, the max level in Diablo 3 is 60. This is down from 99 in Diablo 2. And the developers have said this is not just so they can add additional character levels and expansion packs as a carrot, but primarily because it enables them to balance the game differently and characters can become max level. We figure that you'll want to be max level for a lot of the arena stuff and the PvP stuff. And if you had to grind for 100 hours like in Diablo 2 or 1,000 hours to get to max level before you could be a really effective dueler, that would kind of be an annoying factor in the game. They have said level 60 will be attainable simply by doing the base game content one time on each difficulty level. You will not have to do 5,000 Bale runs or Secret Cow level runs, etc., like in Diablo 2 to max out your level. But they've also said that Hell and Nightmare will be much more difficult in Diablo 3, so it will take you a lot longer to just go through the 3 difficulty levels than it would have in Diablo 2, but much less time than it would take you to do all of the endless grinding.
Oh, I can't remember. It wasn't as high as yours, because I would restart characters. I don't think I've ever maxed out a character. So
given that, do you find the Diablo 3 system more appealing? That you don't have to consider, you don't want to do 500 Bale runs to get to max level.
No, I don't. I know that there's a lot of skill caps are important to a lot of people, but it depends more if the skill is powerful enough, if it's balanced enough to be effective in the game at the point. If when it's maxed out it's not effective, then yes, they either need to lift the cap or better still balance it so the cap is appropriate. So I'm not really so bothered about it as you seem to be.
Some people were kind of unhappy that the skill level, the max level was lower. That's a whole different issue than skills. We'll try to not go totally into that today. But as Kyle said in his comments on Facebook, is it a good or a bad thing that there's fewer than 20 points for max? And one of the things that Blizzard, the developers, have many times commented on Diablo 3 skills is that they want each level, each point you put in the skill to really make a difference, to be impactful and to be impressive. And quite often in Diablo 2, there were diminishing returns on skills. And you get to level 14 and you're adding, 0.01% to your critical strike or something. And it really made almost no difference whatsoever. Because with 20 points, they have to really spread it out so every level doesn't do a huge amount of difference or else your character becomes wildly overpowered. Whereas with lower skill caps in Diablo 3, it seems like each skill point will really make a difference and you'll be like, that was worth spending.
Yeah, I think that's a better sense of achievement, don't you?
I think so. So that's thanks to Kyle for the Facebook mailbag question this week, and Elly posts a little feature each week saying, recording a podcast tomorrow, if you've got clever questions, now would be a great time to insert them. So go right ahead and do that on the Facebook page. We've also, as a brief wrap-up here, as we're getting way off topic and Elly and I are laughing off camera, we've added a couple of new features to the website. We just redid this is the Diablo.IncGamers.com website. We just added a whole new thing to the forums. Can you describe that for us, Elly?
Yes, they're maroon still, but we've changed the layout slightly. We've got 2 boxes at the top, one with the feed of the news and one with the feed from the wiki. And we've mainly done this just because
we love you.
Yes, and we don't want you to miss out on some of the glorious features around the Diablo site and Diablo wiki. That's really all the changes.
And we have a new feature coming up as well, I believe.
Yes, there's a new feature coming up on the site next week. It was one that was very popular. Lots of people loved it. And it disappeared. And lots of people weren't so happy. And it's coming back next week. No answers on a postcard, but all will be revealed on the glorious day of its return.
You're not going to say what it is?
No. That is all.
Well, you guys will have to check the website, and you can see one of our more popular features from the Diablo 2 days, which has been on hiatus for several years. Yes. But it'll give you a reason to check the site every day, so to speak. Thanks for listening, and we will be back possibly this weekend with a new podcast about some game features. At the very least, Elly and I will be back next week, hopefully on Thursday morning, talking about all the new exciting news that Blizzard is going to post, and if they ever post again, hopefully before the beta.
Yeah,
Thanks for listening. Bye.
Moo. See, you had to one-up me, didn't you?